listening to Ciminelli Chats, where we aim to share the latest Ciminelli company news, real estate industry insights, and announcements. I'm your host, Grace Johnson, and today I am joined by my colleague, Mackenzie Tierney. You may have noticed a buzz bubbling up in the city of Buffalo these past few weeks, all because it is officially 43 North Week. 43 North is a startup accelerator program that invests $5 million into seed stage startup businesses that relocate to Buffalo through their competition. Each year, 43 North finalists present competing pitches at an energizing public event for a chance to be selected as the sponsored startup company. This year, the 43 North Finals are taking place on October 12th at Shea's Performing Arts Center. Today, however, we are thrilled to say we have Jonathan Ebel, co-founder of Verivend, and husband and wife duo, Dr. Tye and Courtney Caldwell, co-founders of Shearshare, here with Mackenzie and I. Verivend and Shearshare were both members of Cohort 7 and were previous 43 North winners in 2022. We wanted to connect with Dr. Tye, Courtney, and Jonathan to talk about what's changed since they won the 43 North competition and what it's like running a startup business here in Buffalo, New York. Thank you all for being here today. I know it can be pretty hectic in your lives, to say the least, so we appreciate you taking the time. To get started, do you mind introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit about your startups and what you do?
So my name is John Ebel. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a company called Verivend. We're a fintech company here in Buffalo. We call ourselves the Venmo of private capital. So our customers are using our system as maybe normal people would use Venmo to split the cost of a dinner, except they're splitting the cost of usually a large M&A type transaction. Pretty interesting, pretty cool. We're very proud of what we've built so far. My background is in development, undergrad engineering, graduate school. I got my MBA here in Buffalo at Canisius College. I have a pretty interesting background of companies, startup companies. Most of them had some nice exits, so I've been really lucky, and I'm excited for Verivend to be the next step.
Yeah, okay. If you don't mind, where in Buffalo were you born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born on the west side of the city. I lived on the west side for a while. And then we moved over to the town of Tonawanda. It was our first house. We lived in an apartment for a long time, a couple apartments. Mm-hmm. And, my mom was a poor Italian immigrant. We really didn't have any money, but my parents worked real hard and did really well. And ultimately, they moved to Clarence. My father got a job in Clarence. And then I went to high school there.
Nice.
And that's basically it. And I've sort of lived around the city and suburbs after that.
Nice.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Love it. My name is Courtney Caldwell, co-founder and CEO of a tech startup called Shearshare. We're known as the Airbnb of our industry. And so we provide flexible workspace solutions for the second largest industry for freelancers and independent contractors. But the whole space as a service concept is really like the Trojan horse. So people find us because they're looking to rent out professional salon and barbershop space on demand without having to sign a long-term contract. But once they get into our ecosystem, they now have access to portable health care benefits. They have access to daily professional liability insurance, which we created alongside our friends over at Lloyd's of London. They have access to 401k retirement plans, and they have access to no-doc microloans. And so it's really like a business in a box, but we're understanding that we are truly building the future of work for the salon industry worldwide.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tye Caldwell, Chief Strategist and Visionary of Shearshare, as well as co-founder. My background is pretty thorough. So I've been in this industry for almost 30 years as a licensed professional on barbering and cosmetology side. I have my doctorate in barbering and cosmetology, been an award-winning salon owner and barbershop owner in this space, and also a suite owner. So we pretty much understand this industry from, soup to nuts, back in the front end. And what we're doing, like Courtney says, just really changing the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. We're really turning the coin on its other head because it's been an antiquated system for so long. And we're adding technologies as that layer to now take it to the next level and really galvanize and bring all these different type of segmented and fragmented salons and barbershops from mom and pops all the way to corporations into one seamless stream on our ecosystem.
Yeah. So two very different businesses. Both tech, yes.
Are you both from Buffalo as well?
No, we are not from Buffalo. So California born, Santa
Okay.
Cruz, California. My dad was a military doctor, so we moved around every 2 years. So when people ask me, Courtney, where are you from? I usually say San Antonio, Texas. That's where I graduated high school.
Okay.
But I met this guy in Dallas, Texas, and we've been in Dallas for 30
Plus
plus
years.
years.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and then you, babe?
Born in Arkansas.
Okay.
Left Arkansas as a kid, moved to Texas, and finished school there. And been traveled a lot, but at the end of the day, Texas is where I go home.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So this will be very interesting
Yeah,
hearing the
very-
perspective
yeah.
from two angles.
Definitely.
All right. So I guess to kind of rewind it a little bit, here at Ciminelli, we love the entrepreneurial spirit. Clearly, that is what this is all stems from, is both of you had these ideas, or I guess a group of you had ideas, and you brought it to fruition. So can you kind of walk us through that idea to business concept and how you got there?
Sure. I like to tell people, especially when we're talking to a room full of budding entrepreneurs, like we literally thought that we were just trying to solve our own problem. Like we did not wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to be a tech founder, or I want to be the next, Mark Zuckerberg. We never thought that. We just said, oh my goodness, we are having this problem over and over and over again where we can't find stylists to work out of our location. And we're hearing this from our other peers in the neighborhood. What can we do about it? And around the same time, a random stylist gave us a call and said, hey guys, I found you online. I know you have a great reputation in the industry and in the city and what you do for the community. Look, I just moved my salon like 45 minutes south. My clients are already complaining about the long drive. And if anyone knows in Texas, it takes forever to drive anywhere. And so she was deathly afraid of losing that book of business. And so she called us and said, I just need access to like a suite on a Friday, Saturday. Would you even be open to doing that? And Tye will tell you that I thought it was like a prank call. I was like, there's no way this hairstylist is asking us to rent out our suite for like 2 days and not sign a contract. And she didn't want to work by commission. And so are you sure that was a real person? And she's like, no, I had a conversation with her. She's real. I kind of vetted her. I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
Courtney laughed at Twitter, though, by the way.
I did. There are a lot of ideas out there that flourished, and I was like, that's never gonna make the light of day. Twitter being one. But my husband, who is also the most unemployable person that I know, being the definition of entrepreneur, he's like, no, that suite is collecting dust right now. I'd rather it collect dollars, so I'm gonna say yes. I'm like, thank goodness that he did, because then that stylist started asking us to do the same thing for her in San Antonio, Texas, and in Houston, Texas, and in Dallas. And we ended up manually matching stylists to empty salon space for 3 years before we looked up and said, there's got to be an app for this. And couldn't find it. And then that was the aha moment behind Shearshare.
Wow.
We realized the climate was changing.
Yeah.
This industry has been pretty much two ways of working. It's either been commission-based or working as an independent contractor. But independent contractor was something that was more so small in the count. Everybody was working by commissions, almost like being an employee. And as Courtney said, once we realized that the industry changed, we wanted to change with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. Verivend never actually set out initially to move private capital. So what it was me and the other two co-founders came from other companies that had scaled massively. And we all saw issues with accounts receivable and accounts payables in these businesses. And so we set out initially to improve AP and AR for businesses, so B2B type transactions. That was actually the flag we were actually riding under when we won 43North. But what happened was we ended up raising a seed round. It was like a $2.7 million price round. And the investors that invested in our system, in Verivend, asked if they could use Verivend for their own syndicates, so their own funds and their own syndicates. And we're like, wow, it's meant for truckers and it's meant for something completely different, but we'll welcome you to use it if you'd like. So they started using it. And after a little while, we looked at our transactions and saw that 80% of our transactions were coming now from private capital. That's like private equity, real estate syndicates, venture funds. And we were like, oh my God, like we had solved the right problem for the wrong people. And it was just such an eye-opening moment. And I think one important thing for an entrepreneur to be able to do is to pivot. I mean, it's no secret. Like pivots are just naturally something that happens in business. And we were able to pivot right into that market. We essentially fired off all of our old customer base and went right into this. And it's been nonstop. So we're just the market leader in what we're doing right now, which is just amazing. Talk about falling ass backwards into something that you're good at.
Yeah, I mean, kind of both of you, honestly. Like, trying to solve a problem and realizing that there is a slight pivot there, and here you are. It's like you both struck gold. So that's really great. For Shearshare, I mean, after you win 43 North, obviously there's that year component to relocate to Buffalo, New York, coming from Texas, and it sounds like all over. I mean, how did it differ? What was it like operating here versus Texas or anywhere else?
Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but I had to look on a map to see where Buffalo was. Because I just assumed everything was right around New York City. I'm like, we're going to be able to go to Broadway shows on the weekend and do this and that and the fashions. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. It's over on the other side of the state. We're actually closer to Canada. So we're pretty much Canadians now. So that was like the first shocker. I think making the decision to move the business and move us as the founders, that was not the difficult thing. You know, what we saw with the 43 North program is that we're going to be able to land in a space that was going to truly like just envelop you as founders and really support the entire person, not just we're here to make sure that your business is scaling up and to the right. Like we got a really good sense of 43 North. We actually came in after finals and did a little like scouting tour of the city and the people prior to like saying, we're definitely going to be all in. And we really felt a warmness that you don't always get a sense for when you're traveling to different cities, especially large metropolitan areas. And so because we felt that very natural like pull and tug towards Buffalo, we're like, okay, we're all in. And then once we landed here, because we moved here with how many pieces of luggage? 16 pieces of luggage?
16 pieces of luggage.
We did whatever the max
that was
on
our
American
life. That was our
Airlines.
life and our baggage.
Yes, we did 2 flights, tons of luggage, and our dog, and then we shipped the car up here with our bikes in it. And that was how we made the move. But I always tell people, like, yes, obviously the weather is different from Texas. You know, Texas right now is battling 124-degree summers, and Buffalo is a perfect, idyllic 78 degrees in the summertime. And so, yes, the weather is cold, but the people are really warm, and we have received nothing but support and open arms since being here, which is why we've stayed on for longer than a year.
City of good neighbors.
I know, you guys actually live up to that.
Sure. It's funny that you mentioned not knowing where Buffalo was. I remember at another company we were hiring for this executive position, and we flew in this gentleman from Dallas, I think, and he shows up in his suit and everything. Just flew in for the interview, and he's like, I don't know if I want this job. I thought this was in New York City. It's like, you couldn't have looked at a map before you got in the plane.
There are people who do that, but I did. I happened to be like, where are we going in the world? It was perfect timing for us because our son was in college, or second year in college, and it was just us and a dog. And we said, you know what? If we're gonna, shoot for the stars, like let's do it in Buffalo.
You have to go where you celebrate it. And if you think about Buffalo, I mean, no offense to beauty, but it's not the most aesthetically pleasing looking city. We went through a program where we got a chance to understand the city of Buffalo, and we realized at the turn of the century, they were too poor to knock down any buildings. So, it was just to that point where when people come here and they see that, the look of Buffalo, how old it is, they don't realize that, most of the people, if you just want to metaphorically use it as an example, beauty is external for some, but real beauty is both external and internal. So once we really got into the city, got to know the people, met people like John, who, one who's in our cohort, and then just really got a chance to really, migrate through the city. You start to really realize that the city is more than what it looks like. It's really about the people. It's really about what they have to offer. You guys have great food here. Restaurants are pretty much mom and pop type, not a lot of franchises. So you really can get into what the city is really about and understand who they really are just by really diving in and not really looking back. Coming from Dallas, Texas, very contemporary city, growing, by leaps and bounds. It's almost like a place where people are starting to migrate to. It's like the great migration going on in Dallas and Texas alone. I think that what we've realized is that creature comforts can be a bad thing. And we came here and released all our creature comforts to just really dive in and get to know Buffalo.
I love that. It's funny because I travel a lot for work, and sometimes I travel to these great places, and I'm just like, wow, what a great city. What would it be like to live here? But the funny thing about traveling is when you come home, right? You come home, you start finding beauty in like different places. Like it's not the shiny buildings. Sometimes it's the grunginess of a street, and you're just like the grunginess of Allen Street. I don't know why I find beauty in that. Of course.
I used to live off of Allen.
But there's something to be said about that, and the passion that people have for this hometown and the beauty of the history. It's funny. You can find beauty in the most unlikely places.
And the pride too, like the pride that the city of Buffalo has. Like the fact that, like, when we went on that tour and we were with Leadership Buffalo, learning that, to turn the century, that the city was too poor to literally knock down its own decrepit buildings. That's why we have access to all of this gorgeous architecture today. Walk up and down Main Street, to be able to walk through Allentown, and be able to see the iconic buildings that still stand today. Like, there's nothing like it. In some places, like John mentioned, you walk into, Dallas, you fly over to New York City, and it's all shiny, newness, whatever, but there's no history. Like, you don't know the history there. And here in Buffalo, you ask somebody on the street, and they'll tell you, oh, the last 100 years, or the last 50 years, or my family's been here for 3 generations, and you don't get that anywhere. You don't get that everywhere. And so we really appriciate that about the town.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, now that we're seeing the resurge in the city, we realize that Buffalo is not really putting band-aids on stuff. They're really, energizing the city and giving people an opportunity to really say, what can I do second? Like, so many people here have second jobs. We would think people just work one job. No, people have Colleen, she does yoga. She president of 43 North, and it's like everybody does that. And so what I realize is that as they're doing this resurge, what I like about Buffalo is it's a really tight city. I love the distance from the airport. I love Allentown. So as they start to build out within, you'll start to see that this city is going to get really beautiful, but it's going to still be tight knit. It's still going to be community driven, and the people are going to still be prideful about it. So that's one of the things that I really like about the city, because in Texas, no matter where we was going, what airport we was going to, it was a 40-minute drive.
Right.
And I love the fact that it's just only 12 to 15 minutes depending on where you're at in the city. So we love that. And then the food is it's right there. And you can just make a call and tell them that you're coming and to be ready when you get there. So I love that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, and comparatively for you, John, you're from Buffalo. And so did it pose any challenges for you actually kind of starting this market?
So Buffalo is, to be honest, I mean, we all know it's a medium-sized market. So one of the problems with having a business or a company in Buffalo is it can only grow so big. And people in Buffalo are super supportive. I mean, as I said, they're so passionate and they want to help you succeed here. But what we really need too is help moving out of Buffalo into the big markets like New York, Chicago, LA, like help moving into those markets. I think that's probably the one hardest thing that companies starting in Buffalo run into is how do I get out of this metropolitan area and break out into bigger markets if you're really looking to scale.
Good point.
Yeah, and do you feel like you are on the path of understanding that, or are you still struggling with that concept currently?
We've done it now,
yeah,
but it was not easy. And it was tough even to hire salespeople in Buffalo and have them have those connections in those other cities. We're such a tight-knit community here. Even, I would say, even in like upstate New York in general, if you were to generalize. It's not that hard to get contacts in Rochester and whatnot, but there are other medium-sized markets. And so, I don't even remember like the moment that we started to break out into these other cities, but once it starts and you have a good enough product, it'll start selling itself in these other places. So lucky for us, we're all over the country now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess outside of that, is there a key element of Buffalo that either of you found maybe is lacking or missing compared to other bigger cities that would make it easier to continue your business here?
Oh, that's a great question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head because with all the travel that we've done, I lived in many, many different places. Every 2 years, literally moving to a different location. And then coming from Dallas and landing in Buffalo, I feel that whatever we felt that we would have been missing, we knew how to find it, or at least how to ask for it. And that's a wonderful thing about the city of Buffalo. You ask one person one question, and all of a sudden you have 10 people helping you find the answer. And so I never felt that I'm lacking anything here in Buffalo.
I would say just shopping. Not
It's
not enough opportunities for different businesses. I would encourage more people that if they have an idea or a dream when it comes to style, fashion, this city has that. You know what I'm saying? There's no certain way that I think that people can dress, but I would really encourage a lot of those name brand companies to come to Buffalo. I think it's there. I think we're right here on the border of Canada, and I don't want to have to drive over to Canada or a lot of different places out there that have certain things I'm looking for just to shop. So if they can just kind of give us a little bit more diversity in shopping, it'd be great.
Yeah, I would say the thing that's a little tricky about Buffalo, or maybe the thing that's lacking, is access to capital. And it's better than it used to be, I'll say that. But this region historically has been very risk adverse when it comes to new companies and injecting capital into them. And the unfortunate reality is companies like ours, they devour capital for a while. They just have to grow. I mean, if you're going to create a scalable business, you've got to be everywhere. You've got to be growing. And while now there's much more emphasis, I think, on capital efficiency than there ever was before, that access to capital is still relatively difficult in Buffalo compared to some other larger areas, West Coast, even like New York City area and stuff like that. However, I will say it's gotten better with the exits of like ACV auctions. One of the differentiators with ACV auctions was a lot of that capital when they IPO'd stayed in Buffalo. So like, before that we had some great exits, right? Like we had Liaison and we had Campus Labs and some others, whatever. But I do remember a lot of that capital didn't stay in Buffalo. It went to New York City. It went to some other places. ACV, you do see that capital being here and then getting sort of re-injected back into the startup ecosystem, which is that's how you create a flywheel. Like it can't always come from outside. You can't always be begging outside players to invest in Buffalo. It has to be Buffalo investing in Buffalo.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like even one of the founders of ACV Auctions, Jack Greco, ended up being an angel investor into Shearshare, and literally it was just like a handful of conversations. He was like, "Yep, I'm in."
Yeah.
And seeing that and feeling it and experiencing that on the ground floor when we first landed in Buffalo, like there's nothing like it. And then he went a step further and introduced us to our now CTO. And then he went a step further and introduced us to our then head of revenue ops. And so just like every single domino kept falling.
Yeah.
Like I said, we landed here. We obviously didn't have all the pieces or all the players on the chessboard, but we just started asking questions. And then people would magically appear and have some kind of answer, or at least point us in the right direction. And so I do appreciate that Buffalo, especially with the ACV auctions exit, has reinvested that, not just the money, but the mind share and the experiences that all of those founders and team members had back into now the emerging startups from Buffalo.
Yeah, and I'll add to what John and Courtney saying. I think that they both, give some great points. To what John is saying is that, the access to capital is definitely a need, but I also think it's the people here as well. The risk factor sometimes is a little bit, embedded with fear. You know what I'm saying? Especially with new companies coming into town, and 43 North is, in charge of bringing a lot of these companies here. Don't just bet on companies in Buffalo because you're a Buffalonian. These companies are coming here. Most of these companies are going to stay. Some of them end up going back to where they came from, but at the end of the day, they're bringing businesses here. They're hiring, talent here, whether it's engineers, whether it's just, operations and sales and marketing. A lot of times people bet on what they know, and they're not familiar with people that are coming in and not sure if they're going to stay. But if you're putting capital into the company and believing in the companies, more than likely they're going to see that you trust them and they're going to end up staying. So I think a lot of times I would think that it's just really the high level, big time investors in Buffalo that can really kind of trickle down on some of their friends and say, hey, you know what? Let's invest in some of these companies, whether they're going to create, a investment team or investment group to say, you know what, this is something that we can do. The city's emerging and resurging into a better city and growing. Let's do this and let's double down on what our risk factor and just kind of remove it and just do the right things to kind of get this city in the place where it used to be.
How do you both see your companies kind of contributing to that ecosystem in Buffalo as you continue to grow and scale? It sounds like that's something that was clearly important to you. So how do you want to give back, I guess?
I mean, one obvious way is hiring. So we are growing. We're growing slowly and responsibly, is probably a better way to say it. But one thing I know that I do today and will continue doing in the future is I advise a lot of companies too. So I happen to be decent with software, right? And so I advise a lot of companies. There's a lot of non-technical founders out there that can use some advice and some help. Yes. I do that all the time for no cost. I don't ask for anything to do it. I'm happy to do it. And I do plan on, when Verivend has its exit, which is coming, I do plan on giving most of that money away. Like I want to give it back here because the reason that Verivend got the traction that it got is because of people who I know in Buffalo who did the same thing. And so it's only right that I do it. I would feel terrible if I didn't. So I know I'm going to be investing in other companies, and partially, I'm going to give partial treatment to Buffalo. So there could be a company in Chicago which is maybe doing the same kind of thing, but I'll invest in the Buffalo company first for sure, because I know people did that with me, and it made all the difference.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, John. When I think about what we've done here in Buffalo, like as soon as Tye and I landed here, it was important for us to kind of serve as that model of hope to the younger generation or to the rising generation of entrepreneurs, like people who may look like us, who do not have a technical background, like John here is being super engineer extraordinaire, but people who say, I think I want to be an entrepreneur, I think I want to go into tech, but I don't know how to code. And we're the first ones to raise our hands and say, hey, guess what? We don't know how to code either. And look at us having a tech company that's now spanning 900 plus cities. And so being able to walk into Canisius High School or walk into UB or go to the elementary schools that we did last year doing Black History Month and talk to the elementary school students all the way up to college grads and say, there's a place for you. Like if you have that tingling in your heart and in your mind to say, I think I have an idea, there are people and there are resources and this city will get behind you and help you try to figure out what that really looks like.
I think that serving as an example, Courtney and John raised some great points. I think that serving as an example, as entrepreneurs is major. I think that, being a beacon of light, this city has been traditionally a working man city. People just usually get a job and work there till retirement. But I think that bringing companies like us and having people like John and Verivend and his team represent entrepreneurship, it gives these people going to school just an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I don't just have to go to school and get a degree and just go work for a high power company or a Fortune 500 company or Fortune 100 company and make, double digits in hundreds of thousands of dollars and then think that that's success. You can actually do the hard work, be an entrepreneur, and then build a team and see the city grow like that. So you can now be another Shearshare coming from another city and coming to Buffalo, or be a Verivend who's from the city and say, hey, you know what? I like the example that they have for me and that they are being for me, and I want to be able to do that outside of having a degree.
Yeah.
I want to say something I love that. So one thing I want to say that I think is awesome about Shearshare is that like you bring a sense of like flair to an otherwise sort of like, it's a Rust Belt city. But yeah, it's pretty sick. Like, seeing you guys on the Today Show and like you have a great look and a great sort of like excitement and electricity to you, which is really cool. It's hard to get that from private capital transactions.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, Johnny. We were in New York and one of the things we're raising capital right now. And some people say, it's hard to really believe you guys need money because you always look like a shiny ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not the way to look at it. At the end of the day, you have to represent where you come from. Say if you're a construction worker, you're gonna look like a construction worker.
Right.
We're in beauty and styling. So there's no use for us to look like anything else but what we do every single day. And I think that, that's a representation of who you are, but never down yourself just to be like, okay, I need capital. So we've always tried to step in and be our best, but that's how we were raised. What I'm saying? No one can see us talking, but we're Black founders, and we have to work 2 times harder or more than someone like John, who can walk in and say, hey, you know what? His face sometimes will give a cue that he's possibly someone we can invest in. We have to actually go in there with proof and show that we've actually done the work. We built this company. We have bootstrapped our own company, so we have to go in there with a little bit more cachet and background behind us to get investors to believe in us.
Yeah. But I mean, how awesome though that you were able to come to Buffalo,
Yeah.
not your home, and get that done.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
Been good to us.
That's because we have peers like John and the team over at Verivend.
Exactly.
They help point us in the right direction and help make the introductions when we ask for them. Yeah. And we ask John, hey, we're not technical co-founders, so what do you do when you need to... and be able to get those answers.
John said, do this, and that.
I know your CTO, good guy.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Kurt too. So it's so funny how someone also told us that guys, when you land in Buffalo, it's no longer like 3 degrees of separation. Buffalo's like a huge living room. And if you come here with ill intentions, that can be a little scary for some people, a little bit off-putting. But when you come in and you open your heart and you're like, what is there that I can give back? It's actually a very beautiful thing. And so we love the fact that the community is so tightly knit and they're super resourceful.
Everybody thinks that Silicon Valley is a serendipitous place for startup world, but I think it's, again, to Courtney's point, it's people like John who really actually give us the answers to the test, which create that serendipity. When he's able to give it to us, as founders now, we're able to give it back to other founders. We're able to now refer a lot of companies to 43 North, when they start doing their application process, for the last 2 years. And a lot of that comes from the relationships. Nothing that we do, being an entrepreneur since I was 19 years old, nothing that I do is not based on relationships. So either you create the serendipity in your own home, community, and then kind of bring it out into the city, or you don't know how to do it at all.
That's good.
So with the next cohort kind of hitting the stage in October, we have finals coming up for this year. Do you have any advice for upcoming businesses, upcoming startup owners?
Man, that's a good one. I mean, one of the things that, Courtney and I didn't know when we were first going through this process a couple of years ago is authenticity and ingenuity is major. Your company is what your company is. They like your company based on the application process and the stuff they're learning, but they really want to know who you are. Mm-hmm. And if you can, go through the interviews and be yourself, be honest with your answers about what you're bringing to Buffalo, how you're gonna, scale your business and opportunities going forward, it's pretty much a shoe-in. And a lot of companies don't really understand that process, and they don't understand how to be that because you're so heads down into your company, you kind of lose a sense of personality. Yeah. I think that's one of the great things about, time, age, maturity, that when you're doing something that you love, you never lose that because at the end of the day, investors want you to scale, but sometimes you get lost in the sauce, and we don't like to do that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, for the upcoming cohort, gosh, I can't believe it's in a couple of weeks now. It feels like we just left the stage last year. Yeah. So early welcome to year 9. Is it year 9? Yeah, we were year 7.
Cohort,
cohort number 9. My advice, I think, would be, like you said, Dr. Tye, start building those relationships early and often. Like as soon as you land in Buffalo, start shaking hands and introducing yourself. If you see someone you don't know, walk up to them and start a conversation. You never know where that potential hello could lead. It could lead into a strategic partnership. It can lead into an investment. It can lead into someone introducing you to your now CTO. You never know where a simple conversation here in Buffalo can take you and or your business.
Yeah, I do want to echo exactly what you said. I mean, it really is all about the networks here in Buffalo. So get to know people, be friendly. Yes. It is a small living room. You don't want to make anybody upset because someone will hear about it. But I would definitely say, think about how you are going to give back to Buffalo. So while this is a huge opportunity, it does come with some strings attached.
Yes.
So you do need to think about how you're going to hire in Buffalo, how you're going to scale. I mean, they want to see a highly scalable company. They want something that's going to grow and bring attention to Buffalo and some attractiveness. And so I think that's got to be a big part of the pitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's known for football, and you're about to love the Bills.
Yeah.
but I think Buffalo wants to be known as a city of good neighbors that are bringing new neighbors into the city that could add to the community. And Courtney and John are spot on. It's really about the resource of relationships, capital, knowing people, knowing the right people. One of the things that 43 North does better than most people, and we've gone through 500 startups, 500 global now, YC fellowship, YC. And one of the things they do, they bring you here and bring you to the top of the food chain. And you can trickle that down. So one of the things that Courtney and I did when we got here, we got to meet everybody from Renee Jones and Mike Whistler to everybody, that can help in the community, different angel investors and VCs. And then, Beverly Grace Center. And then we just go over to the east side and different communities and just walk into shops and say, hey, this is who we are. And so we want people to just not know our name or know us just by people talking about us. We want them to know our faces. We want to be able to walk into a restaurant and feel good that, we know people and they know us. And we've gotten to know people like that, just walking Allentown, just going down Elmwood and, being on the east side. And that means a lot, what I'm saying? People don't really realize that. So I would tell cohort 9, don't come here being selfish. Come here ready to give back.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo is going to give you exactly what you give it.
That's right. You get out of it what you give.
Yeah,
that's so good.
That's why 43 North works.
That's right.
Yeah,
43 North works.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
I definitely want to add something. Nothing stops Buffalo, honestly. People get scared when they say Buffalo, and they get scared of the weather. The weather is just the weather. One of the things about me, I grew up in Arkansas, so I know what cold is. I used to play in it. As you get older, you start to get a little weak to it. But I think that one of the things Buffalo brings is a cachet of personality. If you just look at it as just cold and snow and tough winters, then you're missing out on a lot of the beauty that you really could see. And it's really getting to know the city. There's so much history in such a small city. It's almost like going to Paris. It's like Paris in the U.S. And one of the things that I like about Buffalo and people need to realize is that you're right between New York City and Toronto. That's crazy. And why would you not even come here and say, hey, you know what? I could stay here. Me and Courtney could fit ourselves anywhere. And I think it's really about not just the city of Buffalo, but in the end, it's the people. The people are going to make you super welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And, people like to say this city is a lot of things, but it's not a lot of things. It's what you make of it, and it's how you see the city once you get here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Mm-hmm.
That was excellent. Hard to follow that up.
Yeah.
I'm very proud to be here.
Drama.
Yeah, and I'm excited about what Verivend's going to be doing, and I hope to bring more good press to our beautiful city.
You are.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. That was awesome.
That was fun.
Yeah,
That was fun.
that was very fun.
Thank you.
Thank you again to our guests, Jonathan, Dr. Tye, and Courtney from Verivend and Shearshare, for joining us on this episode of Ciminelli Chats. For our listeners out there who might be inspired by what they've heard today, don't forget the 43 North Finals are taking place this Thursday, October 12th. Tickets to the event are free and are still available, so get them while you can. Whether you're an inspiring entrepreneur or simply someone who loves to stay informed about what's happening in Western New York, we hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you want to learn more about the 43 North competition or get involved in Buffalo's thriving startup community, be sure to visit their website at 43north.org. As always, we'll have all the links and resources mentioned in this episode in our show notes, so be sure to check those out. A big thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. If you liked this episode, please consider subscribing to Ciminelli Chats wherever you get your podcasts. Stay curious and stay innovative, Buffalo. Until next time.